Welcome to the Shepherd King, a standoff in Eilah. Imagine standing on a mountaintop, overlooking a deep ravine. On the ridge across from you, an enemy army is camped, their spears glinting in the sun. This is the Valley of Eilah, a place now shrouded in fear. On one side, King Saul and the army of Israel. On the other, the formidable Philistines. For 40 agonizing days, a suffocating silence has gripped this valley, broken only by the heavy rhythmic footsteps of one man. He is a champion, a man from the midst, stepping into the no man's land between the armies. This is Goliath of Gath. Some ancient texts say he stood nearly 7 feet tall. Others suggest he was even larger. He's a walking fortress. His scale armor, made of gleaming bronze, weighs 125 pounds. His spearhead alone is 15 pounds of solid iron. He is the very definition of an unstoppable force. And for 40 days, no one in Israel has dared to face him. Goliath isn't just a physical threat. He's a master of psychological warfare. Twice a day, at morning and at evening, his voice booms across the valley, challenge that cuts through the courage of an entire nation. "Choose a man and let him come down to me," he bellows, sneers at them, calling them mere servants of Saul, reducing a national conflict to a personal duel he knows he can win. And his strategy is working perfectly. The army of Israel is paralyzed with fear. Even their king Saul, a man described as being a head taller than any other Israelite, is terrified and deeply shaken. What went wrong? The Israelite army was suffering from a dearth of spirituality. They were looking at the giant through human eyes, measuring his height, calculating the weight of his armor, and seeing only an impossible obstacle. Their faith had evaporated, replaced by raw primal fear. The Bible says that every time Goliath roared his challenge and pointed a finger, the soldiers of Israel would break ranks and flee. They weren't just intimidated. They were utterly defeated in their minds before a single sword was swung. Now, let's cut away from this scene of despair to the quiet hills of Bethlehem. Here, a young man named David is tending what the scriptures call a few sheep. He's described as ruddy, with a fair complexion, hardly the image of a seasoned warrior. He is the youngest of 8 sons, and while his 3 oldest brothers are on the front lines, David's life is in the wilderness. His father Jesse decides to send him on an errand. Not to join the fight, but to act as a delivery boy. He packs roasted corn and 10 loaves of bread for his brothers, and 10 cheeses for their commander. David arrives at the camp just as Goliath steps out to issue his 80th challenge. The air is thick with the familiar dread. But David hears something different. While the soldiers of Israel see an unbeatable giant, David sees an uncircumcised Philistine. In his eyes, Goliath has made a fatal error. He hasn't just insulted an army, he has defied the armies of the living God. This perspective is so alien to everyone else that it immediately causes conflict. His oldest brother, Eliab, his anger flaring, accuses David of arrogance and having a wickedness of heart. He sneers, "Why have you come down here? You just came to watch the battle." Eliab sees a naive little brother looking for a thrill. He can't comprehend that David is seeing the situation through a lens of absolute faith. But David's words don't go unnoticed. Someone overhears his confident declaration, and he is quickly seized and brought before the king. Standing before the trembling Saul, David says something astounding. "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight this Philistine." Saul looks at him, this young shepherd who isn't even old enough to be a soldier, and dismisses him. "You are not able," he says. "You are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth." This is where David presents his resume. It's not filled with military honors or tales of combat. Instead, he speaks of his time in the solitude of the wilderness. He recounts how, when a lion came and snatched a lamb from the flock, he went after it, struck it, and rescued the lamb. And when the lion turned on him, he grabbed it by its beard and killed it. He did the same to a bear. These were his private tests, his training ground, where no one was watching. These lonely victories, fought to protect a single sheep, prepared him for this public moment. Convinced, or perhaps just desperate, Saul agrees. He tries to equip David for the fight by putting his own royal armor on him, a tunic of mail and a bronze helmet. But the armor is heavy, unfamiliar. David tries to walk and can't. He says, "I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them." He refuses the king's armor. It might have been the best protection the world had to offer, but it wasn't his. Instead, David walks down to a dry brook, stoops, and carefully selects 5 smooth stones. He places them in his shepherd's bag. Armed with only his staff and a simple sling, he walks out to meet the giant. Goliath is more than insulted. He is enraged. "Am I a dog," he roars, "that you come to me with sticks?" He looks at this boy with his shepherd's staff and feels utterly disrespected. He curses David by his Philistine gods and promises to feed his flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. But David's response is one of the most powerful statements of faith ever recorded. It's a doctrinal masterpiece delivered on the battlefield. "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin," he declares. "But I come to you in the name of Jehovah of the armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." He tells Goliath that this day, the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. As Goliath begins to lumber forward, a 9-foot mountain of muscle and bronze, David doesn't back away. He doesn't hesitate, runs quickly toward the battle line to meet his enemy. While running, he reaches into his bag, pulls out one of those smooth stones, and fits it into his sling. He whirls it, once, twice, building momentum. Experts estimate that a skilled slinger could launch a stone at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. That stone, small and insignificant on its own, flies through the air with lethal precision. It strikes Goliath in the one place he is vulnerable, his forehead, the small patch of skin, unprotected by his helmet. The stone sinks deep into his skull. The giant stumbles and then falls face down onto the earth. But David isn't finished. He runs and stands over the fallen giant. Since he has no sword of his own, he draws Goliath's massive sword from its sheath. With a single, decisive act, he executes the giant, severing his head and holding it up as a trophy. The effect is instantaneous. The Philistine army, who had placed all their hope in their unbeatable champion, their God, sees that he is dead. Their courage shatters. They turn and flee in a wild, chaotic retreat toward their cities of Gath and Ekron. The army of Israel, moments before paralyzed by fear, rises with a triumphant shout and pursues them, plundering their abandoned camp. David returns from the battle, carrying the head of the Philistine. When King Saul asks him, "Whose son are you, young man?" David's reply is simple and humble. "I am the son of your servant Jesse the Bethlehemite." He claims no glory for himself. To truly understand the power of David's victory, think of a master craftsman's tool. The world saw a boy with a common shepherd's sling, a tool designed for scaring away predators, not for fighting giants. It was like bringing a fly swatter to fight an elephant. But in the hands of the living God, that simple tool became a weapon of immense power. David didn't need the king's heavy, untested armor because he was already wearing something far more powerful, the armor of doctrine in his soul. He understood a fundamental truth that the rest of the army had forgotten. The size of the giant in front of him mattered far less than the power of the God who stood beside him. Thanks for watching.